Hi, Joey Chris here with Professional Contractor Supply with another PCS safety update. So I get asked all the time, can I use a marker to write on my fall protection soft goods? We're talking about things like a harness, a lanyard, maybe a beam strap. Well, the easy answer to this is most of the time, yes. Most manufacturers give you permission to write on their gear, although you as the safety professional or that competent person have to do your due diligence. And what is that? First thing we have to do is identify the product that we're using. Once we know that, we can go online and track down the marking requirements letter from that manufacturer. What do those look like? Here we go.
Okay, so here's a pretty typical letter from Miller Fall Protection with their marking requirements for their soft goods. Now, most of these letters are not included in the owner's manual when you buy the product, so you're going to have to go on the manufacturer's website and locate them and download them. So in this letter, you can easily see at the beginning it says that they want you to use a Sharpie brand felt tip marker. You also notice down at the bottom it says that all Miller brand harnesses have a blank label in the back of the label pack to use for identification. These are things you all want to take into consideration. Okay, so this technical bulletin was issued by 3M, who recently purchased Capital Safety DBI Sala. You will see that their instruction manual differs slightly. They say that you can use both an Avery Dennison Marks-A-Lot marker or a Sanford Sharpie permanent marker. They also go on to say that markers approved for the use of launderable items are also approved. Those are great things to know if you have this product. Now, one thing you'll notice right behind that is paint or paint pen should not be used to mark on the web. Paint can penetrate the web fibers, then dry and cause the fibers to break when flexed. What are they talking about when they're referring to these paint markers? So these are paint markers that all manufacturers, including 3M, forbid you to use on their soft goods. As you can see, they look just like a permanent marker, so extra precaution is going to have to be taken if you choose to go ahead and write on your gear. Here we have a technical bulletin from Safewaze Fall Protection. You can see where they start off in their letter explaining why they pick the markers that they do. If you get down a little farther, it says Safewaze recommends the use of a marker rated for use on items that can be laundered if the equipment must be marked. Down below, they also advise against marking on any of the factory labels, as this may interfere with the legibility of the label, which I'll show you a little bit later in this video. This Guardian technical bulletin illustrates why it's so important that you know the brand of fall protection gear that you're using at your facility or out in the field. The reason for that is at the beginning of this letter it states, "It is not recommended at any time to write on webbing of fall protection harnesses. Writing on harnesses can potentially degrade webbing integrity and or reduce effectiveness of harness inspection. Recommended best practices to only write on the 'This harness belongs to' portion of product labeling or applicable harness models." So what they're saying is on some of their harnesses on the back of the label it's blank, allowing you to mark there. Now, one paragraph below it says, however, writing on harness webbing is not prohibited. So what they're saying is they don't recommend it, but they're not prohibiting it. And then if you go a little bit farther down, it says that if you're going to write on the harness, go ahead and use a Sharpie brand marker. Okay, this letter was issued by Werner Fall Protection, and again, they're just saying you can go ahead and use a Sharpie brand marker, and at the bottom of the letter, they're telling you please do not use a paint marker, which we talked about earlier. And lastly, we have a bulletin here from Falltech stating basically the same as the other letters, is that you can go ahead and use a Sharpie brand style of marker and not to use a paint marker.
So here's a common practice of writing on your harness. This particular user wrote their first name and last name on the harness for easy identification. Again, this is not prohibited as long as you use the marker that the manufacturer recommends. Over here, somebody wrote a date, more likely the date that this product went into service, which would be different than the manufacturing date on the tag. Again, no problem as long as it meets our company policy. Now here we have a problem. This is a lanyard and somebody wrote window crew over the instruction tag. If I block a word or the manufacturer says I can't read one of the words, it could change the whole meaning of the instruction tag. The word and or the word or not being there would change the meaning. Therefore, I would have to fail this upon inspection. Again, we've got 3 examples here of how you can mark on gear. Just make sure that you meet the manufacturer's recommendations before you do so. Okay, great. So we've identified the product that we're using. We've secured the letter or the letters from the manufacturer with the marking requirements. You now, as that safety professional or that competent person, have to make the decision. What's your company policy going to be? Are we going to allow for marking on our equipment or not? My recommendation is that you don't do it, and let me tell you why. Earlier in this video, we saw the Miller letter that stated you had to use a Sanford brand Sharpie marker. Now you go ahead and take the marker, you put it on the equipment. 2-3 years down the line, you now have to document what marker you had to mark on the equipment. What do? On the back of some of those tags, they're actually blank. Go ahead and write there. That's sometimes where they want you to write. If you elect to go ahead and write on the equipment itself, that's okay. Go ahead and keep the letter that the manufacturer issued to you. You put it in your fall protection handbook, and you have to keep it at the job site or at your facility at all times per OSHA guidelines. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact me with the information at the end of this video. Have a safe day.